Did you ever notice that all of life is a transition, a letting go and a clinging to something new? From the moment we are into life, those cells from our parents where we are in the womb, there is change. And there comes a moment that's beyond our will when we are born. So we have to leave the womb and live outside of the womb. There's a letting go of something and an embracing of something new. And that goes on throughout our entire life. First there's the baby, then the toddler, then the grade school child, then the dreaded teenager. And the same goes on for parents. They have that experience of being an empty nester when their child then goes off to college. So there's always this becoming comfortable and then uncomfortable, a letting go and an embracing something new. The challenge is to realize that some things are temporary and other things are permanent. That is the challenge of the spiritual life. Not to get so attached to that which is temporary, but to be alert to that which is permanent. We all go through these transitions. When I was studying to become a priest, there are 4 years of undergraduate study and then 4 years of graduate study. You would think that after 8 years of education after high school, we'd be a lot smarter than we are. But we're not. But when we make that final transition from studying to being ordained, we leave school behind and we begin and embark upon the gift of priesthood. So I was at the seminary, the Josephinum, the Pontifical College Josephinum in Columbus, Ohio, and I was getting ready to finally graduate and then be ordained. And there was a fellow there who worked on our campus. His name was Ralph Paisley. And Ralph was our own hunchback. He was a poor fellow who suffered from cerebral palsy. He was kind of all crippled up. He lived above our activities building where the pool and the weight room was. And he would help clean that building and do some maintenance around the property. Wonderful guy. Dear soul. I used to take him. He couldn't drive. I'd take him to the doctor. I'd take him to his appointments. And right before I was to leave, he wanted to get together. And he kind of talked like this. I'm going to take you out to eat. I said, okay, Ralph. We set a time. I drove over to the activities building to pick him up. And I'm helping him into the car. And I said, Ralph, where are we going? Long John Silver's. Ralph was the last of the big-time spenders. I said, okay, great. So we go to Long John Silver's, and I'm helping him into the place. And, of course, Ralph had one volume, and it was loud. And he didn't care. He didn't have any sensitivity to other people around there, what they were looking at us or not. We're walking through the line to make our order, and he said, I want shrimp. It's okay. So everybody's looking at us. I'm feeling a bit self-conscious about it. But then I thought, I'm here with my friend. He's a dear soul. Why should I be embarrassed? So we have our meal, and when we're done, he says, let's get dessert. I said, okay, where are we going? Wendy's. All right. So we drive over to Wendy's. We go through the drive-thru, and he orders one chocolate frosty. And it wasn't for me. And it wasn't for him. He said, this is for my friend. I want you to meet him. Do we have time? And I said, sure, Ralph. This is our farewell time together, whatever you want to do. So he gave me directions, and we drove to this facility which is similar to the McGuire home, if you're familiar with that, for people with special needs and severe disabilities. I'd never been there. I'd lived at the seminary for 4 years, but I'd never been to that place. But Ralph had, many times apparently. We pull up to the door, and I'm helping him in. And as we're walking to the door, he says to me, "You don't know how lucky you are." When the doors opened up, we entered into the building, and then comes streaming toward us in one of these remote control wheelchairs was his friend, George, for whom we had gotten the milkshake. And he couldn't talk. He just made excited noises. You could tell he was in the presence of someone he loved. So I fixed the milkshake in his chair, and he spun around excitedly, and he led us down the hallway to another big room that opened up into a sea of other folks just like George. And when I walked into the room with Ralph, you would have thought I walked in with a major celebrity. All the noises, because they recognized someone who loved them. And we went around to every single person in that larger room, and Ralph expressed words of kindness and love to them. And when we were done, he said, "There's one more person you need to meet." I said, "Okay." So he led me down a long hallway, and at the end of the hallway was a room. And we entered the room, and laying in a bed was this girl. I didn't know how old she was. She looked young, small body, but a very enlarged brain, like 3 times the size of a normal human head. Couldn't lift it off the bed. Beautiful face. And when I helped Ralph get around to the side of the bed where she was facing, and their eyes met, this beautiful smile came upon her face. And she lifted up her dainty little hand, and Ralph reached down his big, clumsy hand, and as they grasped, she said, "Ralph, I love you." And Ralph said, "I love you too." And I could feel the powerful presence of Christ. I never forgot that. What really matters in life. 2 years after I was ordained, I got the message that Ralph had died. And I couldn't help but think, when he entered before God, in heaven there would be those same cheers and noises, because Ralph knew what was most important. It's not the material things in life. It's not the things that you and I consume our lives with that in the end really matter. It is the acts of love. It is the time we make for the less fortunate. It is the charity and love that we share. It dawned on me that Ralph, with all of his disabilities, as poor as he was one of the richest people I ever knew.